Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope the new year started really good for you and that you will have a wonderful year. I didn't do a video last week. My apologies. I was abducted by my husband for a wonderful little holiday, which I hadn't planned, so no video. But here we are, and we're going to talk about this little fellow here. And why him? Well, it's always good to start the new year with angels, of course. It's good to start small. And also, this little fellow was made in East London in a place called Bow by the Bow Factory. And it was situated at the River Lee, which is a small river that comes out into the big Thames River. And I just found my new studio, my first studio, just a few minutes upstream from where this little fellow was made. So that's very cool. It's a part of London I love. It's a really, really cool part of London. So I'm very excited about this. So far, I've been trading from home. You can see here this beautiful painting made by my husband, but our house is getting very, very full. It's full of paintings and full of porcelain. So I'm going to have a studio. So now this little fellow, often they call these little figures, they call them putti. It is one putto and two putti. It's actually an Italian word for cherub or little angel. Apparently they weren't meant to be angels. Apparently they were actually meant to be little boys and girls. And the reason we know this is a boy is, well, it sort of looks like a boy, although the most critical parts of that are not revealed. They are very artfully concealed. But apparently Bow made the boys with the draping over their right shoulders and the girl with the draping over their left shoulders. So that's how we know. And they made these little figures, of course, because they were very popular to put on the dessert table or a tea table or dinner table. And they would inspire conversation and just inspire people with beauty. Um, I think it's a very cool thing. Have a look at it. What is cool about this one is it is a very early figure. It has an innocence. Look at his little face. It has a real innocence. If you can see, the sun is shining on it. It's not so clear, but it has a real innocence. See, he's sort of looking into the world. This figure is definitely inspired by the very famous German figures from Meissen. You can see it in the style, the Rococo scroll here. It's very Meissen inspired, but it still has this sort of slightly dumb innocence that the Bow Factory was very famous for. The Bow Factory was, of course, a contemporary of Chelsea, and I showed you the little shepherdess and her lamb a few weeks ago. Chelsea were very sophisticated. Bow were not as sophisticated, but they were charming and they were very, very good what they did. Their items are very good, the porcelain is very strong, the colors were very good. So they were real pros, but they targeted the more middle class market. So their items were less expensive, their artists were less famous. But I like the Bow figures because of that sort of slightly dumb innocence. They just sort of look into the world. They are not overly worked. I think that's an important part of making art, is that you can really relate to it. When I look at this little boy, to be honest, that's how I feel about life a lot of the time. I don't quite know what's going on. I'm sort of looking into the future. And see, this little boy is doing his job. His job was to be sat on a table and be talked about and inspire conversations. So he inspires me every time I look at him. It's very cool. So I want to point out also, he's sitting on a Rococo scroll, you call this. And as I explained in an earlier video, you should have a look for it if you haven't seen it. The Rococo was a movement in art that was inspired by nature, because you have to see, this was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and people felt excited, of course, about the possibilities, but they also felt threatened by all the changes. They felt a real need for nature, for romanticism, for things being natural. They felt a loss of their natural environment. So they started to make art as if everything had sort of grown naturally. And you can see this, it's not really symmetrical, it's not very sensible particularly. The way you look at a tree is never very sensible. It just grows whichever way the light goes and whichever way the wind goes. And that's a bit how this art was made. So that's what Rococo means. The word Rococo comes from the French word rocaille, which is the word they use for instance, a whole formation of pebbles lying on the beach or in the mountains. They are absolutely perfect in their own right, but they are not planned by anyone. So that's what Rococo means. It's natural, it's sort of random, but it has its own perfection. So now you know a little bit more about this little boy. He is in my shop. If you feel inclined to make him yours, he's there for you. And very soon I'm going to have more Bo figures and also more Chelsea Darby figures. So I'm hoping to show you some more of those. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please press subscribe and receive the notices if you watch this on YouTube. You can also see me on Instagram. I put daily posts on Instagram, pictures with a story. So subscribe to me on Instagram, and you can find me online at gentlerattleofchina.com. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.